for you. That would be great if I did, though. Thank you for your time, Dimitri. I think perhaps we want to double those 7 for this room. Maybe all her still something like that would be more appropriate. So, again, thank you for having me here today. Thank you, Dimitri, for those wonderful remarks. Certainly the principles that you espouse are things that we care about in New York City, things that we're attempting to achieve, like many of us here in the room. I also want to say thank you to the Government Executive Media Group for the invitation to speak today and for the opportunity to share with this community of cybersecurity professionals what we're doing in the city of New York to defend New Yorkers. Because that's what it's all about for us, defending New Yorkers. It does feel remarkable to once again be in our great nation's capital. Perhaps like many of you, I've spent years traveling back and forth to Washington, D.C. In fact, almost 20 years ago, I began my career in international security at the Henry L. Stimson Center, one of the wonderful institutions off DuPont Circle on Think Tank Row. Later, when my wife and I met here in Washington, D.C., we would run along the Potomac from Crystal City to Overland Park. And yes, that is a very long run. We even ran a few Marine Corps marathons. Since those years, we've continued to make at least an annual pilgrimage to the nation's capital for that marathon, for her to run along with the proud men and women of our nation's military. She does still run this marathon every single year. Okay, thanks. Is this on? Great, okay, you can hear me better. Terrific. So she does still run this marathon every single year, and I admit I do not run the marathon. I run after our children. I'm very, very content to do that instead. I'll also remark, just like Dimitri did, that it's a pleasure to speak from within the walls of the Spy Museum, especially considering our craft is one that has its roots in espionage, and it has benefited from the professional application of skills like the intelligence collection and dissemination lifecycle, cryptography and code breaking, and using the estimative language of intelligence professionals as we advise on enterprise risk and offer executive decision support. Perhaps a spy's dark alley and brush passes are our dark web and stenography. And I hold the belief that intelligence itself is the science and even the art of mitigating the impact of surprise, a concept I once learned from a veteran of the intelligence community. Perhaps our industry shares with spy masters the mystique of a poorly understood but powerful force behind the scenes of shifting geopolitical and economic balances. Certainly, Dimitri's remarks reflect that as we think about the events that have been faced since the 1980s. Perhaps we all may agree that cybersecurity now is the most significant force influencing our national security dialogue and international security partnerships, just as traditional espionage once was. And just like espionage throughout history, as cybersecurity charts its own way forward, it finds itself front and center, testing topics as fundamental to our country as public trust, privacy, free global markets, and it may even call into question whether the freedoms and ownerships defined in physical democracy are true parallels to freedoms and ownerships in digital democracy. So yes, today we all share a very important moment. We are all involved in an incredibly important calling. And I hope what we are doing in New York can help shape your own thinking for your own organizations. That's what I'd like to achieve in my time today. So first, a question I often get, especially when I visit DC, what is New York City Cyber Command? We have a simple elevator pitch. It's 2 parts. 1, we defend the technology that is essential to delivering services to New Yorkers successfully each and every day. These are services New Yorkers count on. More to come on part 1. Part 2, we are charged with bringing cybersecurity to New Yorkers themselves. I sent the flare-up on this initiative alongside Mayor de Blasio over a year ago in the announcement of something we call NYC Secure. NYC Secure is our commitment to New Yorkers that in our city, cybersecurity is a public safety issue and an essential service. And everything we do for New Yorkers in cybersecurity will respect their privacy. More on this one to come as well. The prior is the elevator pitch, but you want more than the elevator pitch. So for this audience, I will highlight that I do believe in those 2 concepts, though, an enterprise mission as public servants and a public-facing mission. These things can be applied to all of us working in the cybersecurity domain. So reflect on those two missions in the rest of our conversation today in order to take the best, most relevant parts back to your own public service organizations, departments, agencies, and offices. Even further, as exemplified in the strong partnership between New York City and CrowdStrike, I encourage you to align with industry, academic, and nonprofit organizations that deeply understand and support having a sacred public trust. But since we all love a good origin story, I'll offer you the origin story of New York City Cyber Command. This is really about how we approached, at first, the enterprise mission. We began our journey a few years ago with the realization from the upper echelon of New York City government that cybersecurity needed to be addressed in our city as seriously as we take all other public safety missions. And in those early conversations with City Hall, we aligned on three fundamental quests: a quest to achieve visibility and control, a quest to build a cybersecurity fortress, and a quest to organize, to centralize our effort, and build our forces accordingly. So the first quest, visibility and control, because in reality, you can't defend what you can't see. New York City government is comprised of over 500 million computers, with multiple enterprises, interconnected and federated networks, all of which support those vital services. Services New Yorkers rely on stemming from every type of vertical: financial, health, the arts, transportation, sanitation, criminal justice, of course, public safety services like policing, fire, emergency response, and even a water utility that is the largest network of clean water delivery and wastewater treatment in North America. To achieve visibility would not be enough. We needed to achieve visibility that could defeat threats. And in keeping with this, we adopted a mindset that an asset behaving abnormally should be guilty until proven innocent. That would be the only way we could match the speed of the adversary. The second quest was to build our fortress. Remember that our municipality is like any other large enterprise that has operated technology for decades. Early on, we decided to shake things up and adopted a cloud-first approach. We determined that we could not afford to allow our responders themselves to be held at risk. And we determined that to convince agencies to trust us with their data, even their basic security telemetry, we needed to prove scientifically that we were operating with the strongest identity and access controls and had an extremely resilient data environment. After all, we know our data requirements needed to scale to the size of a New York City problem. And that's, New York City is a big city, so we have large-scale things to do. So we partnered with Google Cloud and built our own fortress. So we went to the cloud. This provides us with our own data environment to allow us to hunt across the width and breadth of our telemetry, and will also allow us to adopt different solutions, adopt and delete different solutions from the cybersecurity ecosystem in a way entirely independent, because we will have our own data pipeline. We have our own data pipeline. So that's how we built our fortress, and that's some ongoing process for us. The third quest was organizing and centralizing the cybersecurity mission. On July 11, 2017, Mayor Bill de Blasio signed Executive Order 28 and created New York City Cyber Command. The executive order is a well-thought-out, 2-page document, and the mayor shifted the reporting structure on cybersecurity from the chief information officer and a technology department to a deputy mayor. It made cybersecurity appear to technology and, importantly, other city agencies, departments, and offices, just like the water utility, the fire department, emergency management, finance department, and so on. Beyond the change in reporting structure, Mayor de Blasio's executive order charged New York City Cyber Command with authorities and duties that can be summed in 5 items. First, report cyber risk to City Hall and provide guidance on cyber defense and information risk to city agencies. Second, set information security policies and standards and audit for compliance. Third, bolster citywide cyber defense to mitigate cyber threats and direct cyber incident response. Fourth, mandate deployment of technical and administrative controls to city agencies and IT systems. And fifth, review cyber-related spending across city agencies and drive collaboration with federal and state government agencies and private sector organizations. It's important to note that I've had a number of conversations with other municipalities, both domestic and international, and I've observed that different cities are structured quite differently. I recall one conversation during which a municipal CIO told me that whereas I convinced one executive, and trust me, it wasn't quite that easy, but whereas I convinced one executive, our mayor, she would have to convince a dozen plus council members. So I know creating a center of gravity may be more difficult than I've made it sound, but I do emphasize having that center is very, very important. And I'm often asked, as I may have alluded to earlier in my comments, why did we name it a command? I get that question often. I need to voice a disclaimer that we do not enjoy similar authorities to US Cyber Command. We do not enjoy those same things. My good friends at the FBI often raise an eyebrow at that comment, so I'll make it very clear there's no offensive mission or even desires. But simply put, for the government of New York City, cybersecurity is not an option or a recommendation or a debate. We take it seriously, so we are named New York City Cyber Command. So that's a bit of our origin. And I admit it is imperfect. One item I would highlight is our now acknowledged public-facing mission, something that only came into being months after Executive Order 28. And I'm confident our city will continue to iterate and evolve as we learn and develop. Remember that some New York City agencies are over 100 years old, so we are not so full of hubris to think we've gotten everything right in our short 2 years. But as origin stories go, I am very proud of where we began and where we've come in such a short amount of time. And I believe you can see how the city is not just approaching cybersecurity from within the walls of New York City Cyber Command. The New York City Economic Development Corporation launched an academic incubator and funding program called Cyber NYC, all aimed at launching the engine of a cybersecurity industry within our city and creating cybersecurity jobs. The cybersecurity industry within our city is a vital part of all of our promises to create innovation, to adopt new technologies, and to have that talent pipeline that we read about in the papers that's lacking. The Office of New York City CTO has launched its own cybersecurity Moonshot challenge to help innovate solutions to bring cybersecurity to small and medium businesses. Because it's not all about enterprise environments. We need to make sure we're leading in a way that cares about that small and medium business ecosystem that makes up the vitality of our city. The Manhattan DA, NYPD, and the Global Cyber Alliance are all looking to improve solutions for the defense of those small and medium businesses. And New York City has a cyber critical services infrastructure effort founded by the NYPD Commissioner, the Manhattan DA, the President of the Global Cyber Alliance, and myself, recognizing that New Yorks rely on more services than those delivered by the New York City government. And through private-public partnership, we together make up our defensive, resilient community. New York City Cyber Command has invested time and energy into understanding and documenting the authorities and capabilities of cybersecurity departments at the state and federal level as well. And it found common calls. After all, we all know that there are no political lines in cybersecurity. I'm very grateful for the relationships and support from our state and federal partners. And we partner with our academic community as well. We recognize that we have an incredibly challenging and incredibly interesting cybersecurity problem in our city. Every type of technical environment, IT, OT, ICS, alongside every type of service. And that excites great minds. A few months ago, we ran a live range cybersecurity exercise with NYU. NYC Cyber Command team members alongside NYU cybersecurity master's candidates defending a virtual network. It was a great learning experience for the students and a recruiting ground for the future talent of NYC Cyber Command. So we were building every bridge. The threat landscape and the impact of municipalities we've all read about in the papers is enough to know that no matter how strong the defense is, an equally important part of cybersecurity is response. So we've worked with agency heads that own the services. We've worked with lawyers, internal and external, to advise on policy development, risk and response planning. We've worked with our own communications teams on common language. We've worked with emergency management to get lessons from NYC's crisis responses to other events like weather events. We've worked with our local law enforcement partners, and we interact numerous times a week with the highest levels of NYC government because we recognize, again, how serious this all is. We are looking at the problem from every angle we can, with every partner that understands the priority of our mission. Perhaps I can use a phrase we commonly apply to other important challenges: it does take a village. So who is New York City's Cyber Command today? What are we? We are many things represented by important functions, and functions that really align in many ways the enterprises represented in this room and other private sector and public sector cybersecurity missions. We have a security sciences division, we have a threat management division, we have something called urban technology to think about the future smart cities and the needs for safety and security there, and many other components. But since I'm speaking to you at this moment, and you'll hear a bit later from my colleague and friend Keessence Phillips, the Deputy CISO for the City of New York, who helms our threat management division, at this moment, I'd like to reveal what I am personally leading for our organization. I've learned that it is the place of a leader to define the character of the organization that you're accountable for. To define our character, I've developed equations and a goal. So the equation that I talked to the team about is quite simple, but it means a lot. Our equation is as follows: facts, because you need to operate off of facts, not speculation, not opinion. You need to determine facts. Plus judgment. Sound judgment is incredibly important, especially considering the seriousness, the speed, the services that we need to protect. Sound judgment is critical. And having a culture that allows to grow great talent, to foster great talent, to make sure it's a safe and equitable environment for your people. Culture is critical. If we get those three things right, if we get those three parts of the equation right, that equals trust. That equals trust. And trust for us is the name of the game. Our goal is to be the most trusted organization in New York City. There are such great examples in our city. We have the bravest, we have the finest, we have the strongest. But for the cybersecurity mission and the threats we face today, our goal is trust. These principles are essential to the success of our organization because we need to announce a call to action. We need to recruit and develop talent, and we owe it to New Yorkers to define, based on clear principles, an organization that New Yorkers can be proud of. And I believe we are achieving our mission objectives in New York City. Additionally, I believe that as we build in New York City, we can create powerful collaboration with our peers in sister cities and with state and federal partners. So before I go on, I'll say the equation one more time. Facts plus judgment plus culture equals trust. Here's a hint of what's to come. As municipalities, we do not need to compete. We can substantively innovate the underpinning concepts of mutual assistance, of shared resources, of talent exchange. And through adoption where technology is going as opposed to where technology has been, I believe we have a future where through shared technical environments, we can guard each other's backs. These agreements are not impossible, and the technology will allow us to do it. It's just hard work. It's hard work ahead. But we all know the work is not just worthwhile, the work is essential, and the work is our unique opportunity and duty to lead. Because we don't have a bottom line, a competitive advantage, a market strategy to fight over. We all have, as public servants, the exact same mission. We protect people. We don't speak in the language of customers or clients or bottom lines. We, this room, with strong partnerships, are the ones defending people. I said it earlier in both the enterprise mission and the public mission of New York City Cyber Command. Defend the technology that enables services to people, those services they absolutely rely on, and help people make better decisions to avoid threats on the internet. We get to share that sacred public trust, that sacred mission together. So to conclude, thinking about people, and perhaps most exciting to me personally, how is New York City Cyber Command executing on its commitment to bringing cybersecurity to New Yorkers themselves? We do this through NYC Secure. This is our statement that cybersecurity is a public safety issue and an essential service, and what we do to help New Yorkers will respect their privacy. I said that a little bit earlier, but it's important to us, so I say it again. What have we actually done except create that important principle? 2 tactics so far, in the mobile space with the NYC Secure App and via public Wi-Fi protection. The NYC Secure App is a free app. It's enterprise-grade threat detection. Anybody can download it that has a Google Play Store or the Apple's App Store. Just download it for free, enterprise-grade threat detection on your mobile device. and in the public space anywhere where our city is providing free public Wi-Fi, because we believe access to the internet is a necessary part of like pursuing your dreams, so everyone should be able to access the internet. It's important for equity in our city. We believe that if we're going to provide that to you, we have a public trust obligation to make sure that if we can confirm and we know that a website is there only because a malicious actor has put it there to harvest your credentials or drop malware, we should do something about that. And we don't need to collect any of your private data to do it. So both of these initiatives, and neither one collects any private data. And that's why we think they're so powerful, because it reflects the values of New Yorkers. I believe this public-facing mission is the most unique aspect and perhaps a one-of-its-kind effort to defend people. And I am very proud of it. I know it's not perfect. I know there's a lot of work to do. But the acknowledgement that it is the government's role to help people avoid threats in their digital lives, to me, is exceptionally powerful. A parting thought. Once again reflecting on being at the International Spy Museum. I was once told that the most independent and one of the most trusted jobs in the US government was being a CIA case officer. A case officer could find herself on a far corner of the globe speaking one-on-one with someone putting life at risk to pass a vital piece of intelligence. And a critical decision might be made by the highest level of the US government based on the integrity of that one interaction. What an incredibly important trust, and what an incredible mission. I believe New York City is gathering professionals with a similar sense of integrity and a similar sense of unwavering mission. And I believe this room is filled with such people too. You can come to New York and join us, or bring the spirit and concepts of what I've shared home with you. Here in the Spy Museum, reflecting on the lone case officer's integrity and trust, being the pointy end of the spear, I challenge all of us today to think about our own incredibly important public trust. Because I know that our total community relies on all of us being successful on our own incredibly important missions. I am very proud to be one of you. Thank you.